Hey, welcome everyone. Hey, this is a podcast that explores various aspects of addiction, potentially focusing on personal stories of recovery, scientific perspectives, and societal impacts or related topics. This podcast often features discussions with experts, individuals in recovery, therapists, and advocates to offer insights and support to those affected by addiction or seeking more information about it. Welcome to another episode of The Other Side of Addiction. I am your host, Al Richards, and today, with our guest, we've got Brigham Blackham. We're going to be talking about self-limiting beliefs. And I love this flippant topic. The
Mm.
reason why is because you do not have to be in recovery. You do not have to be suffering from addiction. This goes for everyone. We all have self-limiting beliefs. Matter of fact, I was with someone yesterday who we just was actually talking about that because pretty much every conversation is a negative conversation. And it's just because of what they think up here. They think that's how everyone is looking at them. And it's not, it's them looking at them. So I'm really excited to be talking about self-limiting beliefs today. So Brigham, thank you so much for your time today. And I know you're a busy guy and you've got a lot in the fire, just like me and so many other people. Just thank you so much for your time.
Oh, I appreciate that. And thank you so much, Al, for having me on today. I think this is a great topic. People are going to be able to start to shift some of those ideas and create reassociations. That's the hope for today. We can give you some bits of value that you can be actionable and you can take what we share and be able to make a difference in your life today. So really grateful to be on the show. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And thank you,
Yeah.
Daniel, for connecting us. I want to make
Yeah.
sure I give a shout out to Daniel for connecting us. So thank you, Daniel.
Yeah, he's awesome. Well, let's dive right in. So when I think of self-limiting beliefs, I actually had a person share this with me about a year ago. He said, all beliefs are self-limiting. You think about it, all beliefs. If you believe something, it's different than knowing something. And the stories we tell ourselves, those are the things that define our reality. We get to choose the words that describe what it is that we want. And we get to define what those words mean to us and the impact that they have. So when you think about self-limiting beliefs, anytime you hear someone that uses low frequency words like, oh, I don't know if I can do this, they're not giving themselves the possibility to say, what if you could? You could add yet at the end of almost any sentence, and that raises the frequency of those beliefs to what if it was possible? You're creating possibilities for yourself and carving out your future. You know, I don't know what you guys are experiencing right now, but any one of us will be dealing with addiction at some point in our life. Now, in Mandarin, there's a word called shi'in that means addiction. Shi is to attract, and then in is into the darkness, into that shadow. You may have heard of yin yang, which is the yin and the yang, the the balance of all things, because there's good and there's darkness in every single thing. And it's not necessarily something that you have to wrap your head around in the beginning, but know that the depth of your sorrow will make it so that you can have the height of your peace and your joy. So when we think about self-limiting beliefs, it comes down to what are the things that you're defining in your life and whether or not those are going to be able to help you get to your next step or not. If your belief is hindering you, it becomes a roadblock, step back out of yourself and ask yourself, all right, is this serving me? Is this belief, this idea, the story I'm telling myself, something that will help me get where I want to go? Now, is it okay if I share a quick analogy about a GPS? You ever heard that? Oh,
Absolutely.
this is
You
great.
bet.
Okay. So one of the things that I always think about with self-limiting beliefs is whenever you are in a car, right? We used to have maps where you had to like try and drive while we're trying to figure it out. But now we have GPS, right? Global positioning satellites to help us figure out where we want to go if you've never been there. But you have to have two key points of data before that GPS will have any functionality. You have a destination and
Mhm.
you have your origin, where you are. Every single one of us is on a journey. Now, your destination may be different than Al and mine, but you have a destination, you have a desired outcome for your life. And you also need to know exactly where you are. Now, if you are in the depths of addiction, you may be thinking, am I able to even recognize where I'm at? You might need to talk to a counselor to figure out where am I in my recovery process. But as soon as you discover this is where I'm at, and you can say, I put that pin, I dropped the pin on it. Now I can say, where do I want to go? Who do I want to be? Who do I want to be around? What does my life want to be designed to become? And what does that look like in 3 months, 6 months, a year, 10 years down the road? Because the person you are today does not need to stay that same way. Now, if it's all right with you, I've got another idea that I'm building out a speech for a group that I'm doing over in Seattle. I've got this idea. I wanted to kind of pilot it with you, if that's all right. Sound
Absolutely.
good?
Go for it. Yeah, you
Okay.
bet.
So when we're thinking about self-limiting beliefs, we're thinking about the things that are holding us back. I want you to imagine your head. If you have things that you're trying uh, to take care of, they are neutral, but are you tethered to them or not? You can cut that anchor at any point. And I like this idea of swapping out because it's very difficult to just get rid of something. There's a void in our life if we do that. So I want you to think of this word as swap. Anytime you have any addiction, it could be a food addiction, it could be a video game addiction, it could be social media addiction, it could be addiction to love or hate or whatever it is that you're addicted to. It could be a substance addiction. All those different things, they're like a tether. And depending on how strong that tether is, maybe it's a chain and you need professional help to cut through it. But as soon as you say, you know what, I no longer want to be anchored to that addiction. I don't want to be tied to it so strong that I am going to now swap it out with something better, something that I want in my life. And you start to fuse yourself to that idea. So here's a few. Uh, Maybe you're addicted to television, right? That's a pretty common addiction. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but it isn't necessarily helping you get where you want to go, where that destination is. So you think, all right, now I want to swap television for what? Well, what does the 10-year version of yourself, the best version of yourself look like? What do they do with their time when they have free time? Is it reading books, listening to audios? Maybe you say, you know what? Once a week, I'm going to swap my television time for an audiobook that helps me learn about specific skills that will help me improve. Or maybe you want to swap out things like, all right, now I really love having desserts every single meal. And you're like, I'm going to swap out having a dessert for, uh, let's say, a what's a good thing you could swap out for a dessert? I mean,
Like
desserts
a
are
like
so
a like a protein shake.
Oh, a
Something
protein
else,
shake. I
right?
love that.
Yeah.
That's positive. That's going to help you have positive calories rather than negative calories, right? So you're instead of those empty calories in a dessert, you're like, I'm going to swap it out with a protein shake once a week. And now that slight shift, that swap that you did is allowing you to increase your health, your vitality, your mentality. And anytime you have these opportunities to swap out bad or neutral for good, you are creating the future by design. And I
Hmm.
think that's key for any type of addiction, any type of limiting belief that's holding you back, that's anchoring you to where you are. You say, you know what? I don't want to be this person anymore that I'm currently uh, tethered to this, to drugs or to smoking or drinking, whatever it is. Could be a food addiction. You say, you know what? I want to figure out how to cut this away, but you have to replace it with something.
Yeah.
And if you replace it with good, you replace it with great things, then you can start to do
So
that. Oh yeah, go ahead.
to pause you really quick, Brigham. So what you're saying here kind of reminds me of a story that I read, and I think where the majority of people say stuck.
Mm.
Something that you said that really resonates with me too is you're talking starting small. You're not talking making a big, huge step because as we
No.
start small, and you know this, we start firing new neurons in our brain.
Mm.
And slowly that chain gets weaker, right? Because now
Yeah.
we've got something else different. And as we make little small changes, this side gets stronger while this side starts getting weaker and starts separating. I read a thing about elephants, how they train elephants. When they first have an elephant, right, they put the shackle on their foot.
Mm.
They have this big chain, and it's hammered down deep into the ground, and big huge cement blocks to keep the elephant as it grows from taking off. while they're training it. Well, at a certain amount of time, if you guys go to the circus, or if you've been to where they have elephants out in the open and you see the shackle on the chain, and all they have is this little teeny cinder block that's holding the chain. Most people go, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense, because that elephant can still take off with that cinder block and
Ooh.
chain. What happens is, in the elephant's mind, that he or she cannot go anywhere because that chain is still shackled to their foot. They don't realize it's just a cinder block. And
It's
I
huge.
think with us, there's so many of us that do that. I just had a conversation with a good friend this week who's talking about making a career change. And he has that chain to him. He has that shackle on him. And he's doing everything he can to break that shackle, not realizing where his direction is really starting to lead him. And he goes, it's that fear, right? It's that fear again of going a different direction. So again, I love how you put it by making those little teeny baby steps, because where we are at as individuals, no matter what we've gone through, whether it's the addiction or whatever it may be, it took us a certain amount of time to get there. It's going to take a certain amount of time for us to get in that different direction. We cannot give up. You got to continue to fight for it. And one day you're going to open your eyes and you're going to go, holy crap, I'm here, without even realizing it. Throughout that whole 3 years could go by and it's going to feel like a year.
That's huge. That reminds me of this idea of one day more. I I've had so many experiences where, as a missionary, one of the things that we do is we help people like overcome addiction with drugs, alcohol, smoking, even coffee and tea, right? Any of those types of addictions. And one of the things that seemed to help significantly was, what if you just focused on today? Could you go one more day without having a cigarette? Could you go one more day without having coffee? If you could do today, could you do one more day? And it makes that like Herculean task of feeling like cutting everything out manageable, because we don't see far enough ahead to realize that those micro changes can create macro gains. And it's by small and simple things that great things come to pass. Uh, I've got a tool here that I think is pretty helpful. It's this idea with swap that I want to give you. It's a little acronym, right? I like these because I'm a teacher. Right? I like doing those little mnemonics. So the S in swap is to be specific with your goals. When you're really trying to swap something out, don't just say, I'm going to take something bad and make it good. Be very specific. You're like, all right, I've been doing 10 cigarettes a day. I'm going to swap out one of those cigarettes for a protein shake or a protein bar. You're like, all right, you just took down one bad and you added one good. And then maybe in two or like a few more days, you're like, I'm going to take one more of those cigarettes away and I'm going to add in a walk, or I'm going to add in grounding, going and taking your shoes off and putting your feet on grass. Whatever a good thing that you want to accomplish, you put that in. So be very specific. If you're not specific, I'm sorry, you'll fall back to what's normal, what you're used to.
Mhm.
Then this W, I think, is making sure that it's worthwhile. Because there are neutral choice for neutral choice. That's not what we're trying to do. We're not working this hard to stay the same. We want to figure out, how do I go from neutral or bad to good? Level up, even if it's a slight level up. Switching out maybe an energy drink for a regular soda, like half the calories. Like, all right, I'm still getting my drink, but it's a little bit better. You maybe can't go cold turkey on not drinking soda. That's okay. Figure out what is your next incremental worthwhile goal. So the first one, specific. Second, W is worthwhile. And then the A is figure out, what would you appreciate about your life if that happened? Would you appreciate you writing in a journal? Would you appreciate you figuring out how to develop a specific skill or a skill set that builds your life, builds your opportunities? And then the P, this one's really interesting, that when you think about positive movement, it's not just positive ideas, because ideas are only as good as the application of those ideas. positive movement towards who you want to be, what you want to do, and what you want to have. So that's the idea of swap. And I think as you really swap out whatever that addiction is, I mean, all of us have different types of addictions. I've had food addictions before, I've had video game addictions. But before my mission, I used to play like 5 to 6 hours of video games. I feel like I wasted my life as a young teenager. But after my mission, after I came back, it's almost been 15 years. I haven't really played any video games. And sometimes you have to say, who do I want to be such that all of my dreams will come to pass? They'll be inevitable because I'm willing to do the hard things so that I can get the great, easy results. Not do the easy things and then have the hard consequences.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
No, it makes complete sense. Yeah, a lot of sense. And I don't know, you tell me, Brigham. I think I already know that what you're going to say. I think a lot of things too that help people from doing the swap is that fear, right?
Yes.
Where is my life going to be? Can I really do it?
Mhm.
Do I have the strength to do it? And again, it goes back to making those small little teeny steps. And I like to use the baby analogy. You know, we're a baby, and all we do is basically we just lay on our back or on our belly, and then eventually we get to where we can roll over. And then eventually we get to where we get up on our knees and we rock back and forth or whatever. And then pretty soon it's our hands. And then next thing you know, we're getting from point A to point B to Z, you know, and then
Mhm.
the next thing you know, we're daring enough to stand up, and we stand up, and then we're taking that first step, and we may fall and hit ourselves on the coffee table or hit our heads or
Mm.
whatever. But we
I
continue
feel
to
this right now.
we continue to go, we continue to keep doing it. And then before we know it, we're walking. And then before we know it, we're running. We get to become adults and we forget all that.
Mm.
It's that fear of, can I get myself from crawling and stand up and walk again? Can I
Yeah.
take that chance, right? Even if it's a baby step, because it doesn't matter how large that step is. I mean, you could shuffle your foot a half a centimeter. As long as it's going forward, you're moving. You're moving in the right direction. And there was this TV show on that I used to watch with my ex, and it's called Shameless. And
Mm.
you know, there's some pretty graphic stuff in it and that, but I remember this character. She was afraid to leave the house. She would not leave the house. Even opening the door and filling the air, it would frighten her. And she finally got to a point where something happened outside, and it got her adrenaline going so much she ran outside, and I think it was to save a child or something. And then all of a sudden she stopped and she's looking around. She's like, I'm outside. I'm outside. And then, you know, she hurried and ran back in. Well, she
Yeah.
started thinking about it. And throughout the series, every time the series came on, it was like, I walked 250 something steps today around, you know, on the sidewalk. And then it was, I went 500. I went completely around the block. She was logging each little teeny step that she took,
Mm.
even if it was one more step than the steps she took before. And it was really cool to see the analogy behind that going, this probably reflects on a lot of people, a ton of people, whether you're afraid to go outside or whether you're afraid to make a career change or whatever it may be.
I love that. That just reminded me of a story that it happened to me about 2 months ago. I was driving home. It was really misty and cold. I was driving through thick, thick fog, almost like enough like fog you could like swim through it. I was driving home. I was coming from Erie, Colorado to Grand Junction, Colorado. And it's a little past 10:30 at night. Really cold because I only had a t-shirt and I was driving, but you know how like a semi, like when they're driving, they have that ice build up behind their tires? Well, one of those pieces of ice fell off, uh, and when I was getting onto my exit, I didn't see it until it was too late to get out of the way. I didn't jerk my car out of the way fast enough, and it popped my front tire. And I was like, awesome. It's really cold. It's foggy. I have very low visibility, so I feel like it's even worse than a regular snowstorm because people can't see very well. And I didn't bring a jacket. And I was like, this is great. I pull over to the side of the road and say a little prayer to myself, like, all right, Heavenly Father, help me figure this out because this is not a fun situation. As I'm swapping out the tire, I had this little uh, headlamp on, right? And anytime a car came up, I was like, "Hey, get out of the way! Out of the way!" And sometimes the cars wouldn't move until a little bit later, so I was like dodging cars as they're coming. Because it was like a 4-lane highway, but it was on an on-ramp, so people didn't see my car until it was almost too late. Anyway, I get this tire swapped out and I had these gloves, right? The gloves were white, they were a cotton glove. And by the time I was done, they were grimy and black and dirty. And I was reminded of an idea that if you take a glove, right, and you throw it in oil or you throw it in mud, does the glove get muddy or does the mud get glovey?
Hmm.
The idea here is who you associate with matters. They leave a mark on you. My gloves associated with those lug nuts and they got super grimy. When you are very conscientious of who your friends are, who you choose to spend time with. Sometimes you don't get to choose like who your family is, but I'm saying you get to choose how you spend your time and invest that time. It was a lesson that was taught to me in that little moment, that little crisis, like a minor crisis. It was like an hour-long crisis, but it taught me and instructed me that I need to remember, am I able to keep my gloves and have that white glove service in all the different elements of my life, or am I associating with people that get my gloves grimy? They get me in a way that I have to go wash. So with addiction, why I feel like this is so important here and why I brought it up was sometimes you have to fire your friends. And I'm sorry that's being so clear, but sometimes you have to say, you know what? Who you're being right now is not who I want to be. And you have to upgrade your friends. You have to upgrade your associations. And as you upgrade your association, you create reassociations with health, with wellness, with your vitality, with your community, and you start to connect with different people. And then maybe 3 or 4 years down the road, if you see that person again, it's not that you don't love that friend, you don't enjoy being around them. You say, you know what? Maybe we don't have as much in common anymore. That doesn't mean you're not kind to them. I'm never condoning being a jerk,
Mhm.
but I do think that sometimes we need to level up our associations to be able to create the associations of positivity in our life and the associations of what we can do by being in proximity to people that empower us, that make us want to be closer to God, that make us want to improve ourselves. And people that, you've heard the idea of guilty by association. Isn't it the same if you're associated with people that are movers and shakers and leaders?
Oh, yeah.
You start to create like a momentum and a positive movement in your life. You think about the way that a car is when it's parked, you can turn the wheel left or right and it doesn't do anything. But if you are in positive momentum moving forward consistently, you make a slight adjustment and that car moves. You make that slight adjustment again and the car moves. So who you associate with, who you have in your vehicle, right? I've heard this over and over and over, and it's so true, especially with addiction. Who you have in your vehicle, those 3 to 5 really close friends matter more than any other choice other than your spouse that you make, because they will really dictate how much money you're going to make, the thoughts that you have around yourself, your self-worth. They're going to help you figure out who you want to be, because you don't want to be the smartest person in any room. You want to be someone that is constantly being uplifted and adding value as you can, but you want to be around those people that make you nervous. Right? That's why I'm around you, Al. You make me feel a little nervous because you're so smart. You're helping so many people. You've done podcasting significantly longer than I have. And being around people that make you want to be better, that make you want to choose to stay on that covenant path or stay on that straight and narrow, the thing that you want, and you say, hey, this is where my destination is. I want to get there. Who else has already been there? Who is the person that will help me unpack those previous beliefs and pack in the beliefs that will serve me, the
Yeah.
stories that will help me get there? So important. I hope that story illustrated some of my ideas that are beneficial for you guys.
No, it's really good. And I'm glad that you brought that up, Brigham, because it is so true. I've gone back and looked at my past, from 15 years ago, and I had good friends. I'm not saying that I didn't, because I did have good friends. I was the one that really wasn't a good friend. I was the liar and the manipulator. However, I still had friends. The people who I associate with nowadays are people who are there to root you on through your journey. They're there to give you all the positive feedback that they can possibly give you. They're there to wrap their arms around you the whole time. And they're not afraid to, because who they are as individuals and who you are becoming, they're not afraid to get in your face and call BS on whatever it is that you're doing, and saying, hey, maybe you need to start looking at it in a different way. And it really does. It changes your whole mindset. You start bringing more
Al, I need to
positivity in your
interject
life.
really quick. Is that okay if I
Yes,
interject? So my
absolutely.
middle name is Guy. So whenever someone says BS, I think, oh, are they saying Brigham Sky? No. But this idea of BS, sometimes people will have a story in their head where they'll have a limiting belief and they'll say, this is what my belief is. Called BS. That's your belief system. Your belief system says this. And if that belief system isn't serving you, if it's not rooted in truth, in fact, if it's not true today, yesterday, and tomorrow, then you need to check your beliefs. You need to check your thoughts. Not all of your thoughts are good thoughts. Not all of your thoughts are correct, even though we think they are.
Yeah,
And that's, I think, the root of what we're talking about. Being willing to say, you know what? I might be wrong on this. Who would have insight that can help me open up my eyes to new ideas? I love this word insight. If you just put a little space there, it's in sight.
insight.
What is in your view? What is in your vision? If you have a mentor, and I encourage every single business owner, every single person to have a mentor, someone that's been there, done that, someone that is a little farther down the path that can say, hey, come this way, give you a hand up, not a handout. He's not saying, hey, here's money, here's this. It's not about that. It's here's a hand up. I want to help you, equip you to be better, not console you. If you need consoling or counseling, go to a counselor. That's their job. They will help you unpack or unload the baggage. But if you want to be equipped for the future, you find a mentor that you can have all of your ideas get poured out, your dreams, your hopes, your goals, and you focus on the things that will bring to pass what you want rather than not do what you don't want. So,
Oh, I love that. And I love the word insight. I had a guest one time, I was talking about, I used the word I believe, right? I believe, or my belief. And she said, Al, I like to use the word my version. And oh
mm,
my gosh, I like that, because I
yeah.
read once, and this is one of the reasons why I'm working on getting the belief word out of my vocabulary, because the word lie is in belief.
Oh my
So
goodness, that's
so
so
who
good. How did I not
who
see that? Thank you.
who says my belief is correct? Is it? And your belief is correct? Or why is your belief wrong and mine's right? Or vice versa? We
Yeah.
don't know. So she said, I like to use the word my version, because that
Right.
leaves it open. However, I also love what you just shared, the insight, because it is, right? Because I've got some friends who have come together as a couple, and there's a few things in their relationship that they see differently.
Yeah.
What I love about them is they're giving each other the space that they need to let them figure out which direction they want to go, instead of one try to tell the other, nope, you're wrong. You need to come over here with me, and vice versa. They're allowing each other to work through the things through their head. And will they ever go that way? And they're okay with it. They're like, maybe not, but it's okay, because their version is their version, my version is my version. And it's okay, because we can still have a loving companionship. And I really liked seeing that when I heard them talk about it. And so guys, be careful. And I know Brigham knows this. Our words are extremely powerful,
Yes.
very, very powerful. Even if you, and this is a word you will not hear me say, but I did use this word when I wrote my letter to addiction, and it's the word hate. Even if you say, I hate the way these shoes feel on my feet,
Hmm.
that is powerful. It is powerful because basically you're saying that you hate to have shoes. That's just my version of it, right? Because there are a lot
Yeah.
of people who would love to have those shoes. So be careful with the way that you use certain words, and even the word belief. Think about it, because that word lie is in there.
Can I share another idea? This is a Mandarin word that is very instructive here. Your view or belief can be broken into two ideas. The first is kan, and then fa is the way. The way that you see is belief. Your view of the world may be with glasses. You have corrective lenses. You may have a blinder on one eye. Every single time that you experience life, it is from your eyesight. But what if, because of the perspective that you have, you can't see the full picture? That's one of the reasons why it's so helpful to have a coach, so helpful to have a mentor that is on the outside of it, right? There's an expression, pangguan jiqing, the observer sees clearly while the person in the middle of the game is unclear. It's this idea of when you're playing xiangqi, which is like Chinese chess or like Go, Japanese version, like the little encircling game. You get like too focused in on the problem to recognize that there's multiple solutions ahead of you.
Yeah.
So, man, if you don't have a mentor, you don't have a coach, there's a suggestion. You don't even have to necessarily pay them yet. I would say just figure out who is it that's a little farther along. Who is it that you know, like, and trust? Someone that you know can help you get to that next level, and confide in them and say, hey, how do I do this? And be willing to take the friction out of the mentorship and say, if that's what I need to do, I'm just going to do it. I'm not going to ask questions a whole lot. I'm going to do the things that you actually said I should do.
Yeah. Very, very good point. Go to the people, go to the people who have lived it. Why do you think people in recovery work with people in recovery? And why do you think they go to them? Because they've lived it. They know the journey. They understand what they're going through. A lot of people, a lot of us in our life have gone through a lot of things in our life that have put us where we're at today, and we've experienced it. So, and a good example again is my buddy that called me this past week. He called me and he goes, man, Al, you're like one of the first persons I thought about calling because I know you'll understand because you've been through this. And they were right. And it would be same with me if the shoe was on the other foot. I would call him and going, hey, I need some advice or I need a suggestion. Help me out because I know you've done it, and I've used this on the show many times, Brigham. We go through our life, so many of us looking at life through that straw. When we're little kids, remember how we always like to, like the telescope, we're always looking. And when you do that, all you can see is certain things.
Mhm.
There's so many people that are bypassing so many blessings and so many gifts that are out there for them, and even the right people to hang with, right? I mean, since being in the single scene, I've seen this so much. People are bypassing good people because they're so busy looking for that perfect destination spot that's right out in front of them, and there isn't one. There's no such thing. And they've been searching for years and they want to know why they can't find it. It's because they're passing them up. They're passing up really good destination places
Mm.
because they're so busy staring straight forward. And again, man, we just got to open our minds and not allow this 3D world out here to bring us into the realm. We've got to start stepping out of it. And I think a lot of people are starting to catch breeze of that a little bit, and they're starting to change their focus in different directions.
So funny. I was on a call with my in-laws. They're serving a mission in Denmark. So we were FaceTiming with them like half an hour before this call. And I was filming my daughter doing flips on the tramp and stuff because she wanted to share that. But one of the things I noticed was if I got too close to the tramp, because we have a little mesh outside thing that's like a net to keep them in there and be safe. If I got too close, it like fuzzed out and all you could see was the net. But as soon as I backed up, there was clarity again. Same thing can happen for us in our lives, in our challenges, and our struggles. If we focus too much on the problem, it's like, okay, here's my pickleball problem. I've got this problem, and you can't think of anything else. But as soon as you step back, you put it in perspective, then you're like, oh, this is actually a pretty small problem. It all comes down to perspective, but you have to be willing to step out of your current circumstances to look at it. One of the ways I've done that, I don't know how a lot of other people do it. One of the ways I've done that is actually journaling, actually writing out, hey, this is what I'm experiencing right now. Here's the feelings that I have. Here's my thoughts about this. Here's the story I'm telling myself. Is that accurate? And then you can read it and you're like, wow, that's a very short-sighted story, or that's only a portion of the story. And if you're really brave, share your version of the story with a loved one. And then they'll be like, okay, your story is as holy as this pickleball. Like we need to fill this out and figure it out. There are so many different things that we tell ourselves that are half truths, that are not quite the full story. But because we were thinking about it, we build this into our minds and then we get emotional. And if you have high emotion, low intelligence as far as your decisions. If you have high intelligence, you typically will take the emotion almost completely out of it. You can be very specific and say, this is what I want to accomplish. Is it worthwhile? Will I appreciate the outcome? And will it create a positive movement in my life? Swap it out.
Yeah.
There you go.
And swapping it out, I know it sounds easy, listeners. I know it sounds so easy. It's not, however, it is doable. You know, I've been surrounding myself with individuals who have really understand the brain. And when I did my training to be an international certified crisis and recovery coach, it was all about the brain first approach.
Yeah.
And it's really crazy. I did a talk up at Park City at the Wellness Alliance, and we've got this 3-pound brain that's in our head. We got a right and a left, and it's so crazy, guys. We control this. This doesn't
Oh, yeah.
control us. It doesn't. However, we allow it to. And once you start understanding that, when you start being conscious of your thoughts, you can start changing those thoughts in different patterns. You talked about it throughout the show here, Britt, especially at the first part of it. We literally can change it. And something I haven't used on the show for a bit, but I want to throw this out real quick to show how fast we can change. I was at an event probably 8, 9 years ago.
Mhm.
And the person teaching the class had us all get up, get away from our chairs, and all stand in a circle, shut the lights out. And they said, I want you to draw an imaginary 3-foot circle in front of you. When I count to 3, I want you to close your eyes and step in that circle. And when you step in that circle, I want you to think of something that really makes you angry, something that really upsets you. And she counted 1, 2, 3, and people closed their eyes, stepped in that circle. And we sat in that circle maybe for 60 seconds or stood there. And then she goes, okay, step back out, open your eyes, and look around the room. I looked around the room. I saw people with their fist clenched. Mine was one of them. I had my fist clenched. People were gritting their teeth. People had tears. People, you could just see anger. And she goes, okay, now when I say 3, I want you to close your eyes and step inside of that circle and think of something that makes you happy. And so we did the same exercise. 60 seconds later, we come back out, and the look on everyone's face has completely changed. She goes, that's how fast we can change our thoughts, that quick. And so for a long time, for me to start training my brain and firing healthier neurons, this right here was a blessing. And the reason why is because when I felt like things was getting to me and life was throwing crap balls at me, I would get on my phone and I would pull up the pictures of my grandkids.
Mm.
And immediately that thought was gone, and all but nothing but happiness and joy came into my life.
That's beautiful.
So
You're
again,
creating
guys,
some neuro-linguistic programming right there for yourself. The
yeah,
anchor to say, this is what makes me happy. This is how I change that state intentionally. So that was one of your main anchors, is your connection with your grandkids.
yeah. So again,
Yeah.
it goes to show how fast we can change this. You know, I don't have a mailbox, I have a UPS box.
Mm.
And I remember 2 years ago around Christmas time, this guy comes in and he's really upset about a package. I don't know, something happened. And he turned around and looked at the kid that's working there and he said, "You just ruined my whole effing day," and walked out. And I'm thinking, okay, wait, he ruins your day. So basically, your whole day is completely shot because it's not his fault the package is missing, but you're playing this victim. And guys, you've heard me talk about this. Check out The Power of Ted. It talks about the Cartman Triangle, the Cartman Drama Triangle. You will learn so much about your life. You will change your life by reading this book. And it just really got me thinking about how this guy probably spent the rest of his day pretty ticked off and upset because of what had happened and blaming this young man that worked there that probably had nothing to do with his package missing. And how many of us do that every day, right? Someone cuts us off, it bugs us the rest of the day. Something happens at work, we take it home with us and we take it out on our spouse or our kids. When really, is it that big of a deal? Is it seriously? Or would you rather just do like a duck does and just shake it off and just continue and swim around like nothing happened?
Can I give an example really quick that's
Yeah.
concrete? So yesterday I was playing pickleball, right? And there was someone that had only played twice. He was my partner. I was doing my best to have him have a great experience. His name was James. While we were playing, the other person on the other team said, "Why don't you just let him have a few more tries?" And for a few points, I was like, man, am I being a jerk by playing really hard? And I hit like three balls right into the net because I was like, oh, I'm being too mean or whatever. And then I was like, wait a second. I'm not going to ruin my whole game so that he can learn to hit the ball. I'm going to make sure that we're playing well and then give him every single opportunity that I can to hit it as well. But I'm not going to not do my best just because somebody else isn't quite at that skill level yet. And it was instructive to me because when when you are around other people that are struggling, that does not give you permission to not do your best. It actually hinders their progress if you are sucking at life. The kindest thing that you can do is to have massive success. The nicest thing you can do for your family, for your friends, for everyone in your association is to be the very best that you can today and every day. One of my favorite quotes is by Frank Sinatra. He's like, the best revenge is massive success. So if you're like, well, they're not gonna appreciate this or they're not gonna care about that, like, don't necessarily worry about getting admiration, about overcoming whatever your addiction is. Say, you know what, I'm doing this for me because I deserve to have the very best life possible. We only get one life. Don't waste it. Don't throw it away. Say, who could I serve? Who could I help? What could I do today to add value to somebody? And the rest of that game, I did not let the other team win because I'm a very competitive person. But it was one of those things that I was like, anytime the ball was close to him, I let him hit the ball. But if it came close to me, that ball was struck really hard and it was in play and it was a good shot. So we would stay ahead. But I I played my best so that he could learn how to play his best. I didn't diminish my skill set and my light so that he could feel better. And I think that's something that the world may think is not the best. But for me, I was taught, let your light so shine before everybody that they can see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. If you're willing to let your light shine, however bright it is, whether it's a candle, it's a light bulb, that's a small one, or it is a huge bonfire of light, let your light shine. And if you've ever been at like a candlelight service and you have that tiny little flame that's flickering and you see other people that don't have that flame yet, you pass it on, suddenly you've got multiple flames all across the entire congregation. And I remember as a young kid, every 24th of December, we did a non-denominational Christian candlelight service, and we had 200, 300 people from the community show up from all different sects, all different denominations, and we shared that light of Christ. So I don't know what your beliefs are, everyone, but whoever you believe in, whatever you believe in, you can tap into that. And I think that's part of the 12-step program too. Whether even if you just say, hey, it's a higher power than you, acknowledge that you can't do this alone. You
No.
don't have to do this alone. There's no weakness in saying I need help. There is weakness in saying I'm not willing to receive help. You get to stay where you're at. And if you're willing to give openly with an open hand, you can also receive with an open hand. But if you're like, I'm not willing to take that help, you also can't give help. So
Yeah.
keep that open hand and you have that open mind and you're going to be open to new opportunities. So
Well, you build yourself. When you give back what has been given to you, all you're doing is building your character even better than what it was, as well as helping other people. And I've had so many guests on the show who've been in recovery for long periods of time, and they're in the recovery community where they're helping others in their journey. And I think pretty much every single one of them said, Al, really, I'm there to help them in their journey, but in all reality, they're helping me through mine.
yeah.
And that's exactly how all this works. When we're out there sharing our knowledge, our struggles, our success, it it's helping other individuals, but at the same time, it's helping us even more without
Mm.
us even realizing it. It's coming back to us without us even realizing it at all. It's an amazing, amazing process how it works. And you pretty much touched base on it, Brigham. Guys, when we get to a point where we really fall in love with ourselves and we love ourselves wholeheartedly, and in a way it's in a selfish way, but not the selfish to where if you're cold, I'm not going to give you my coat because I'm cold too. I'm not That's not what I'm talking about. Being selfish enough to love yourself enough, because when you have all that love in yourself, you light that other person's candle, what Brigham was just talking about. And the more we do that, that light just continues to grow and grow and grow. And I tell you what, our world needs this right now. It
Mhm.
needs more candles being lit by other individuals who are loving themselves, because God wants us to be happy. That's all He wants. And He wants us to also help others. And we cannot help others if we cannot help ourselves first.
So true. You have to put that oxygen mask on yourself first before you can help others. And if you don't mind, there's this idea that I think would be helpful when with addiction. I mean, I'm sure you've covered this in so many different ways. With addiction, there's often shame and an unwillingness to admit that, hey, I've got a problem. Uh, there's a really negative word, say should. If someone says, man, I should be doing this. I should have not had 9 cigarettes. I should have not drank this. I should have not that. And then they should all over themselves.
Mhm.
It's it's a really easy shift from saying, you know what, I'm no longer going to say should and say, I want to do this. Just that one little shift, you swap out should for I want to do this, and suddenly you're in control. Instead of saying, oh, I can't eat chocolate bars, you say, I don't eat chocolate bars. Who's in control of that? It's not somebody else imposing their rules on you. It's you choosing. You're using your God given ability, your agency, that right to choose. And because you're using that choice, you are in control. You don't allow that substance to control you. You don't allow the cigarette to control you. You don't allow the food to control you. And that is one of the reasons why overcoming addiction is so empowering. You are in control. Nobody tells you, hey, you have to wake up in the middle of the night because you didn't get your nicotine fix. I've seen my brother do that when he was really struggling with smoking a lot of cigarettes. He sometimes couldn't sleep because he didn't have the fix yet. So he had to like actually get up and go outside and smoke, and then he'd be okay. Like, wait a second, who is in control here? The substance. Maybe your addiction is social media. Maybe it's uh, illicit drugs. Maybe whatever it is. Every single one of us have stuff. Every single one of us have issues. But when we have that challenge, we get to say how we're going to face it, how we're going to overcome it, and who else can be cheerleaders and a coach and a support system and a cheering crowd to help you become who you want to be. But just like that quote where you have to be in the arena. Don't just sit on the sidelines. Be in the arena. Make the shifts that you need to be the very best you can. Swap out those negatives for the positive. And I mean, I hope that idea made sense for you and that was helpful.
Yeah,
But
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, I feel like I'm getting a little preachy. I'm sorry if I'm getting
No.
preachy, but I hope this is helpful, guys. This is coming from love. I'm talking to myself here too. I mean, I've had a food addiction for many years, and only last 4 months I've really been able to hone in. And I literally 4 months ago I was 245 pounds. Last 4 months have been very consistent exercise, being very strict with my diet and writing down what I'm eating, and then hitting some basic uh, specific things I'm doing every single day, been able to get down to 211. So it's
Wow,
been a
congrats.
thank you. Yeah, it's been a big shift because of small things. It wasn't big, massive things because I didn't start out saying, oh, I'm never going to have this again. I'm never going to have that. I was like, no, what am I going to do? What is in my control? I'm going to eat this. Okay. And then I'm going to document what I ate. And I'm going to eat this. And I have just been doing my very best. And I'm not perfect at it, but I am making positive momentum forward. I
Well,
think
and
that's
it sounds like you're enjoying the journey because that's where a lot of us mess things up. And I don't know if that's even the right word of, but it's the direction, it's not the right direction to go. Instead of saying, I have to do this, like you could
yeah,
say,
I get
I
to.
have to eat healthy, I have to eat this, I have to eat this amount. I get to is what we need to do. I get to do this. It's that journey. Enjoy that journey. Because if we're saying we have to, it
Mm,
starts putting that doubt, and literally we're putting that shackle and that chain and that concrete block to our ankle, and it's going to make it a heck of a lot tougher for us to get to where we want to go. However, if we enjoy the journey and we just take it as it comes,
mhm.
it's enjoyable. It really is.
And we can break those chains, right? You think about the way you brought up the elephant, even if it's just a little rope. I was teaching my class this uh, last week. I teach these little 15-year-olds in my ward. We were talking about how sometimes Satan he binds us with flaxen cord. It's this idea that just one little lie at a time. He'll tell 99% truth so he can sneak in one lie, and he gets us just slightly off the path. And it's that idea of you wrap a cord around yourself. Right? I'll give you a little visual, but you wrap that cord once, you can break it. You wrap that cord twice, oh man, now it gets a little harder. And you wrap it 3 or 4 times, and then suddenly you're like, oh, I'm stuck. That's how addiction is too. But you think about it, it's not every single cord you have to cut at the same time. You're like, you know what? I'm going to cut this one today, swap out that one, and then this one. And then, oh, and now I can get that one. And eventually, after time, it does. This is a process. Eventually, you can take all of those cords, and you get to be in control again. But it doesn't happen overnight. I mean, that's one of the things like people we live in a microwave society where we're like, hey, I'm gonna be 60 seconds and I'm done. I'm just gonna cold turkey this thing. And I don't know if I've ever met anyone that's completely cold turkey stopped and stayed on that path long term. I have met a lot of people that have said, I'm committed, I've decided this is what I'm doing. And then with support, and anytime they fall, they get that support to come back. Lots of people have been able to overcome addiction. And it's making sure you're not letting those cords keep you bound. You
Yeah.
break free. So there's a
Great,
there's an
great way
interesting
of
visual
putting it.
for you. Yeah.
Well, I know you've got another commitment coming up, so probably getting close to wrapping this up. Now, let our listeners know you also have a podcast called Levelin Up, correct?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Leveling up.
what is that all about?
Yeah, the whole purpose of leveling up is to focus on progress on business and real estate investing. Those are the main people that I encourage to be on my show, or those that are top leaders in their industry, and they share patterns of progress, ways that we can get a little bit better. We can increase our mindset, our skill set, our tool set. And I like to focus on special K, which is a specialized knowledge, where you go and you find something that can illuminate an idea that can change your ideas and change the way that you think about things. And I'm always looking for those little nuggets. Like you gave me a great one today. I was like, the version or lie in belief. I was like, whoa, those are so good. I'm totally going to use those. And I'll give you credit until I forget to give you credit. And then I'll just, you share it 5 or 10 times, and then it just becomes
Hey,
your
I
own.
just took it from someone else too. That's the part of growing, right? We spread it out.
For sure. But no, I love those ideas. And like the version that I am always looking to be is my very best version. The best version of me today is way better than it was a month ago, and it's way better than it was 2 years ago. And we can always do that. And I'm focusing on how to level up not just your mentality, but your actions, your motivation, every single element of your life. So it's called Leveling Up with Brigham Blackham. So if you look on YouTube, that's the easiest way is you type in Brigham Blackham. I'm the only one on YouTube so far named
Okay.
Brigham Blackham.
All right. Well, and I'll make sure that's on the notes, on the caption notes as well, so people know where to find you. Is there any last thoughts, Brigham, that you'd like to share with our listeners?
I do have one. One that's been very impactful for me is this. It's Ishin Ii. In Mandarin, that's one heart, one intention. Meaning when you are completely focused on one thing, what you want, not what other people want, not what the world is telling you you should want, but what you actually want. You can define that one thing, and you work at it, you move forward, you do the things every single day that you can to get a little closer. You have those constant daily actions towards that definiteness of purpose. Right? Earl Nightingale, he says this: success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. If you are willing to progress consistently, day in, day out, whether you feel like it or not, whether someone says you can or you can't, is irrelevant. You say, this is what I want. I am going to do this, period. I've decided. And a good decision made today is better than the best decision made too late. That's my good mission president, Mike Hur. He said that. But you make the decision, you say, this is my intention. I'm Ishin EE. I'm extremely focused. I'm completely committed. And I'm focused so much so that no matter what anybody else says, you will accomplish that. Now, it might not be today. It might not be tomorrow. It might take a decade. But will it be worth it if you actually achieve what you really want, not what other people want? That's what I hope for you, is you design your life the way that you want, and you work every single day a little tiny bit. Get one page closer to the story you want to write. Get one step closer to your destination. Take the energy, the effort necessary to become the best version of yourself. And that might just be one little thing you need to swap out. One little thing. You think about it, if you're specific, you focus on those things that are worthwhile, you appreciate when it's complicated or when it's completed, and then you have positive movement in all those things. You take where you were and you swap out for the version you want to be. I hope this lands with you guys. You go and take action on one thing. Just do one thing that will help you be the very best version of yourself. And with that, I'll turn the time back over to you, Al. Thank you so much for having me on. What a pleasure. I hope this
Absolutely.
has been impactful.
And thank you for sharing those last thoughts. It was reminding me of, I think even Earl Nightingale was even saying about, you got, when you plant a garden, you plant the seed and you got to water and cultivate it
Mm.
before anything will grow.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't remember if it's 7 years or 10 years, but a bamboo, when you plant a bamboo, you don't see any growth for, I think, the first 7 to 10 years, but then in one day it can grow up to 10 feet. So what Brigham is letting you guys know, with how I gathered from what he said, you just keep going. Just keep going. If that is exactly what you want, it will happen as long as you continue to move forward, you'll get whatever it is that you're looking for. And I'll just use this podcast, good example. I did not see this podcast going over 3 years. We're almost at 300 episodes. You know, it seems like just yesterday we hit 100 episodes. And as long as you keep going, it goes. And who knows where it will go. So
It's
Brigham,
getting better and better.
my
Appreciate it.
gosh, buddy, thank you so much, man. Thank you for sharing your knowledge, your inspiration. Greatly appreciate it. And again, Daniel, thank you for connecting us. And I hope to connect with you, see you in person someday. I'm sure
Oh
our
yeah.
paths will cross when the time is right. And yeah, just
Hey,
thank you
we're
so
both
much.
speakers, so you think about it, like there is going to be a time where we get to share the stage. I'm so stoked about it, and you'll definitely want to get on my podcast in the near future. So when that happens, we'll connect it to the show notes under here too, so you can have a connection there.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, and maybe hopefully one day, you know, we've got our Healing Utah Success Summit coming up on October 5th at the Miller Free Enterprise in Sandy. It's going to be a killer event. There's a total of 5 speakers, great speakers, all based around recovery, suicide, domestic violence, inspiration, education. It's going to be an amazing event. So guys, mark your calendar for that. And again, thank you to all our guests, our past guests, all our past sponsors, and especially thank you to you listeners. You guys are the ones that are making all this possible and making the show a success. It's not because of me, it's because of our guests and because of you. You guys are the ones that are making it. So we're going to leave you with this as we do at the end of every show. Remember, addiction is giving up everything for one thing, and recovery is giving up one thing for everything. We're out.